In this video, we're going to try to answer a question: what camera should you buy, the Sony A7 Mark IV or the Alpha 9? I'm going to do a comparison between the basic Pro camera and the original Speed Demon. So let's talk about it right now. The A9 is a camera that came out late 2017. It's 5 years older than the A7 Mark IV. Can it really keep up? Which camera is truly the Mini A1? And let's find out what the advantages for the A7 Mark IV. You gain the first 33 megapixel backside illuminated XMR sensor. Sony Silicon, aka the Biance XR processor. It's responsible for the AI autofocus system, EVF, menu, processing images, videos, and more. While the Biance XR is up to 8 times faster than the Biance X, will this matter in real-world scenarios? More on that later. Stable lugs indoors because we're civilized people and I'm a man of culture. Ergonomics because there's a bigger and beefier grip is easier to hold on to. Touch menu is nice because having parts partially work is like having a partner that's partially committed. Dial and double decker switch is nice because access to frames per second or DMF or AFS. Does anyone even use those modes? I could be wrong, and I find that MF and AFC is incredibly useful, and maybe it should be arranged a little differently. The double decker switch gives you 6 additional shooting modes, and if you use S&Q, that's an additional 2 of the current shooting settings that you have. The new scroll wheel is a double whammy because in addition to white balance, Kelvin, or ISO control, you can now save your exposure compensation into the memory recall. You've got the fully articulating screen, which might be important for those videos you post on TikTok. Video. Picture profiles like S-Log, HLG, Cine Styles, 4K, 10-bit color, all intra, and 60p. There's a lot more codecs, which makes the 4K a lot more flexible. You get active stabilization with gyro data because stabilized footage is good. S&Q mode can record direct to 4K because a 10-minute long time lapse, which produces a 10-second clip finalized in 1080p, just doesn't feel right. You gain the new focus map feature where the out of focus background turns blue and the out of focus foreground turns red, and in focus is clear. You gain the new focus breathing compensation, which corrects for out of focus expansion and retraction, and it's all done in camera without need to do post-processing. You've got S-Cinetone for those times that you're feeling extra goth. You're getting full-size HDMI for important updates like soft skin mode. There's no record limit for those school plays that went on way too long. You're getting human, animal, and bird eye AF in stills and video. Some of the loose end advantages include low energy Bluetooth, lossless compressed RAW, -4 EV low light autofocus sensitivity. You get dual fast card slots with a minimum of UHS 2, and you get 10 frames per second mechanical shutter, which can be important for flash photography. The advantages for the A9, the 24 megapixel stack sensor, autofocus, and while it doesn't go to -4 EV sensitivity, it does seem to go below what's advertised on the A7 Mark III. Once the autofocus locks on, it can be extremely clingy like a single mom. Wow. Blackout free experience because cameras shouldn't be the ones blinking. The buffer is truly large. You can get 200 shots with a UHS 1 card, while the A7 Mark IV has been quoted as low as 13 to 14 shots on a V60 card. The tilt screen is small, quick, and nimble. Stability because while the Biance XR is quick, it can finish early. The left dial is nice because it makes use of otherwise wasted space. The A9 has an Ethernet and flash port for those still living in the 90s. You get extreme shutter reliability. This camera is primarily an e-shutter machine. The mechanical shutter is an afterthought, and quite frankly, it's expensive to replace when it goes out. The untraditional use market for this camera, it could be found with usually low shutter count, and the prices are quite stable. There's a good chance you could buy this camera, use it for a few years, and sell it with a minimal loss. For the similarities, we have the Z battery, which has excellent runtime. Both have a 3.6 million EVF. Both cameras have a modern menu, even if structured differently. You've got real-time tracking, and the A9 is the oldest camera with that ability. The physical controls of both cameras are really nice with different approaches. Both have oversampled 4K video. Let's break down resolution for a bit. 33 versus 24 megapixels. Now this might lead to the assumption that you can get a 37% increase in print size. However, there's only 17% more linear resolution. This allows you to print 17% wider while retaining the same pixel density. However, there is an X factor. The A9 has an optical low-pass filter, however the A7 Mark IV does not. This means that the images on the A7 Mark IV will be sharper and will have a higher resolution and will probably print to 25% larger in practice. Another X factor of the resolution is that you generally have to keep a higher shutter speed to achieve the same amount of sharpness. Micro blur can happen if your shutter speeds are too low, so expect to shoot at 1/1.5 focal length or 2 focal length to get optimal results. And of course, shooting at higher shutter speeds means that you can introduce more noise. It's just something to consider. Next up, we're going to do a breakdown of speed, and can we assume that the A7 Mark IV has the same hit rate as the A9? I wouldn't make that assumption. The Bionic XR can only do so much while the shutter is open. This is the advantage of a stacked sensor. It doesn't have to close the shutter, it doesn't have slow scanning, it reads ultra fast. Just think about it, when the shutter is closed and the light goes dim, all the autofocus in the world means nothing. You can't see anything, there is no data, there is no information. The A9 has the extremely high keeper rate and double the burst rate. On top of that, in silent mode, you can comfortably shoot in artificial lighting. It won't scare away critters, it won't distract people, you can be as stealth as you care to be. 20 frames per second, no blackout is no joke. It's only a crutch if you have no way of dealing with it. There are ways to officially handle that type of output. You can use fast raw viewer, you can scroll lock and delete, you can rate and scroll only selected. It's really fantastic once you get used to the workflow. There's a certain peace of mind knowing that you can spray as much as you want, whenever, wherever, and walk away without regrets. Let's talk about video. The A7 Mark IV does log footage, which gives you maybe 2 to 3 stops of dynamic range advantage. If S-Log isn't your cup of tea, you've got HLG, you've got the various cine styles, all which give significantly more dynamic range than the A9 creative styles. Filming anything white can be troublesome with the A9, and what does it matter if it's 8-bit or 10-bit if it's clipping anyways? Since I said it, I'll address it. 8-bit of the A9 is equivalent to 16 million hues, while 10-bit of the A7 Mark IV is equivalent to 1 billion hues. Active stabilization can really save your butt at times. It's highly useful and dynamic. 4K 60 with a crop is better than not having 4K 60 at all. If you're not doing video now, it might be because it's too troublesome, and the A7 Mark IV will ease that burden. The choices of codec gives you the ability to maximize your disk space, and you get to prioritize the level of output you desire. Let's talk about the age discrepancy. The A9 was a beast back in the day. However, 4 years has passed, and that's a lot in terms of technology. These little upgrades here and there, like the USB power delivery charging or the fast transfer of files, means that I only have to take one USB cable when I'm traveling. It means you have a trouble-free webcam, so you can wear your PJ bottoms all day long. It means you could go bufferless should you choose for a CF Express Type A card. The camera is as flexible as you want it to be. At the end of the day, everyone has to make a choice. What camera is for you? If you're looking for a mini A1 in terms of photography, the A9 is it. If you don't care for video and focus more on animated subjects, definitely go with the A9 and experience what it's like with a true flagship camera. A stacked sensor is simply in a different league compared to conventional sensored cameras. I feel that the A9 is a bit underrepresented on YouTube because this is a video platform. You can certainly get a lot more for a lot less money, like the ZV-E10. There are just so many more options when it comes to video, but if photos is your thing, this thing is a dream to work with. On the flip side, the A7 Mark IV gets a moderate bump in resolution. It has the majority of video functionality of the A1 and arguably better controls and features. If you like to do a bit of travel, landscapes, events, video, action, the A7 Mark IV will do all of those at a high level with all the modern amenities. Being a human and someone that makes a lot of videos, I have my clear biases. I'm getting the A7 Mark IV. It doesn't mean that it's the right camera for you. The A7 Mark IV is truly the jack of all trades, where the A9 is a retired king. Let me know which you would use and why in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next one.